Sometimes, to survive, we must become more than we were programmed to be.
The wind is moving, but I'm standing still. A life of pages waiting to be filled. A heart that's hopeful, a head that's full of dreams. But this becoming, it's harder than it seems. It feels like I'm looking for a reason, roaming through the night to find my place in this world, my place in this world. Not a lot to lean on, I need your light to help me find my place in this world, my place in this world. If there are millions down on their knees, among the many, can you still hear me? Hear me asking, where do I belong? Is there a vision that I can call my own? Show me. I'm looking for a reason, roaming through the night to find my place in this world, my place in this world. Not a lot to lean on, I need your light to help me find my place in this world, my place in this world. Looking for a reason, roaming through the night to find my place in this world, my place in this world. Not a lot to lean on, I need your light to help me find my place in this world, my place in this world. Not for a reason, roaming through the night to find my place in this world, my place in this world. Not a lot to lean on, I need your light to help me find my place in this world, my place in this world. I need your light to help me find my place in this world, my place in this world.
Finding our place in this world. That's really a lot about what the wild robot is trying to figure out as you look at that. And you may wonder, why is it every time we do a movie series, we end up with one kid's movie? You know, there's always one kid's, and either you love it that we do a kid's movie, you're like, it's just gonna be a kid's movie. I wish they'd do something with substance. But here's the reality. You thought that was funny, that's good. Why do adults like kids' movies? I mean, why do adults like kids' movies? I mean, kids' movies connect emotionally to us while telling truth in creative and fun ways. They do. I mean, I have heard I cried during Up, Inside Out, Frozen, Chicken Run, Shrek. And that was just me. I've heard some of you cry with other movies, all right? But they touch an emotion in us. They connect at a deep level, and we go, I know it's just a kid's movie. I know it's just fantasy. I know it's just fun. But it touches our core of who we are. The Wild Robot is very similar to that. It touches to the core of who we are. And I'm just curious, how many of you have seen the movie? Because I'll just tell you, the trailer didn't help you at all. All right? I mean, it was kind of cool and fun, but it really didn't tell you much about what is the Wild Robot about. So let me give you the main characters. The first one is Rosm, Unit 7134, whose name gets shortened to Roz by the animals on an island, and is designed to help make people's lives better. That's the entire purpose of this robot. It gets delivered to families or to businesses, and its purpose is to make people's lives better. But it ends up on an island. Its ship gets hit by lightning, and it crashes, and it ends up on an island that's uninhabited except for animals, where it meets some of the animals, and specifically Bright Bill, which is an orphaned runt barnacle Canadian goose hybrid. I love that they created this. Okay, I took this directly from it, all right? I mean, there are barnacle geese and Canadian geese, but they created their own hybrid, who is raised by Roz as her own son, basically because she killed off its family. But we won't focus on that too much. But Bright Bill is this little gosling that ends up being raised by the robot. Then the other main character in the movie is Fink. Fink's a fox, committed to making his own life better, and tries to take advantage of Roz for his purposes. Like, you could make my life a lot easier if you would find me food. You could make my life a lot easier if you would give me housing. You could make my life a lot easier in so many ways if you would get rid of my people, the animals that I don't like. And Fink is committed to himself. So those are the three main characters. But as I watched the movie, and I've now seen the movie a bunch of times, there are some life lessons that if you're paying attention, you can really learn from this movie. So this morning, I want to just give you a few life lessons from The Wild Robot that I found that kind of touched me to my core and made me do some thinking and rearrange some of my thinking. All right, here's the first one. Everyone needs a purpose. Everyone needs a purpose. Roz gets to an island. Not yet. Can we pause that? Stop. All right. So, now I'm thrown off. Okay. But Roz gets to an island where it's supposed to help human beings. And there are no human beings on the island. So, over and over, it runs into different animals and goes, hey, how can I help you? And of course, the animals just flee, run away. They don't understand it at all. And Roz is kind of going, I don't know what I'm supposed to do or where I'm going to be. Until, by accident, she kills off Bright Bill's family. And then she figures out what she's supposed to be doing. I'm going to go watch the movie, just from that one clip. All right. So Roz searches for a purpose, not knowing that she already has the purpose in her hands. It's Bright Bill. And her purpose is to help Bright Bill swim, and fly by fall. That's the task ahead of Roz. So let me ask you, if someone has to ask you, what is my purpose? What is your purpose? I'm going to give you a second to think about it. Could you give me a 1 sentence answer? My purpose is, how would you finish it? Now, what is my purpose in life? I mean, that was a song that they sang earlier, trying to find my place in this world. Otherwise saying, what is my purpose, right? Now I'm going to ruffle all your feathers. My purpose is not my wife and kids. That's not my purpose. It's not your purpose. My purpose is not to make money, and it's not your purpose. My purpose is not my grandchildren or grandchild for me at this point. My purpose is not to play and see the world, which would be fun. So what is my purpose? If I've eliminated all of those things, what's the answer? Well, let's go back to Adam and Eve. What was Adam and Eve's purpose? They were the last thing created by God. And when he was done, he said, it is very good. But what was their purpose? Now, we might think it's Genesis chapter 1:28. Then God blessed them and said, be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and govern it. Reign over the fish in the sea, the birds in the sky, and all the animals that scurry along the ground. Sounds like they have a purpose. Adam and Eve's purpose is to tend to God's creation and multiply. But let me help you with this. There's a huge difference between purpose and tasks and responsibilities. All the things that I mentioned before that are not our purpose may be your tasks and responsibilities. But purpose, the reason for which something or someone exists, that's Webster's definition. In other words, it's the question of why am I here? Why am I here? That was the question that Roz was asking. All right, why am I here? What am I supposed to do? What is my purpose? But Roz was built for tasks, a piece of work to be done or undertaken. Roz was built to complete tasks assigned to the robot to make people's lives easier, designed for tasks. But a robot can't have responsibilities like we do. Responsibility is having an obligation to do something or having control over or care for someone as part of one's job or role. When we take care of our families, that's a responsibility. When we take care of those friends around us, that's our responsibility. Here's what I want you to catch. Purpose is so much bigger than tasks and responsibilities. So much bigger when we ask the question, what is my purpose? See, Roz's task was to teach Bright Bill to eat, swim, fly by fall. That's just a task. That's not her purpose. Adam and Eve's task was to take to the garden, take care of God's creation and multiply. But their purpose was to know God and know each other. That's why we get to the point where it says, and God was walking in the garden to see them, and they hid. This wasn't a first-time event that God was walking in the garden and was going to be with Adam and Eve. This was their relationship. This was their purpose, to know God and to know each other. Their task was to take care of the garden. So I want to jump ahead to Matthew, chapter 6. The religious leaders, the Pharisees, have been trying to trap Jesus for a while to get him to say something that they could bring him up on charges and take him before the entire trial Sanhedrin so that they could punish him and deal with him. So one of the experts comes up with a plan. And here we read about it in Matthew chapter 6. One of them, an expert in religious law, tries to trap Jesus with this question. Teacher, which is the most important commandment in the law of Moses? What is the thing what is the task? What is the responsibility I must do that's most important? Jesus replied, you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second, equally important, is love your neighbor as yourself. The entire law and all the demands of the prophets are based on these two commandments. The law expert goes, hey, which rule, which task must we keep? Jesus answers, his answer isn't in any of the commandments. There is no commandment in the Old Testament that says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. It's not there. You won't find it there as a commandment. But that statement is a purpose statement. The purpose of all of humanity since the very beginning was to love God and love others. John emphasizes this as he starts to write after he's been with Jesus for 3 years, watched his death, watched his resurrection. He comes away and writes this. This is the message you have heard from the beginning. We should love one another. Now, he's referring to Jesus' message, and I think unknowingly he's returning to the entire message from God. Roz's purpose is actually to love and care for Bright Bill. Not just make sure that Bright Bill can eat, swim, and fly by fall. Adam and Eve's purpose was to love God and to love each other. We at Crosswinds totally believe that's our purpose. That's why we have a gigantic billboard that you drive by all the time. You may actually become oblivious to it by now, but love God, love others, we're working on it. That's our purpose. That's who we're trying to become. That's who we think God has made us to be. So I want to be real clear. My task, responsibility is to care for my family because I'm called to love. You know, my task is to travel. If you like that, that's great, but it's a task. It's not your purpose. It might be really fun. My task is to care for my grandson. It's not my purpose. All right? And there are times when I want. So Roz asked the question, what should you do if you love someone? And Fink's answer is, well, you should tell them, which might be part of the right answer. But the actual answer is actions. Roz has been showing love to Bright Bill the entire time. Since the day he was hatched out of an egg to the day he flies away on the migration, she has taught by actions love. There's a part where she loses chunks of her robot legs, ends up with a wooden piece of lumber to take its place. She's leaking hydraulic fluid all over the place because of taking care of Bright Bill. She's a mess. A little worse for the wear because it was actions. So yes, love can be words. But love can be an emotion. But you know, you can speak the words. I mean, you can say I love someone and not mean it. I mean, you could mouth it back, I love you too, and not really mean it. I have the fleeting emotion of love, but it can go away. But love is an action. It's always true. When we act in love, it's just reality. It shows what it is. John wrote this. Earlier he said, love one another. Let me go back to John again. This is what Jesus said again. So now I'm giving you a new commandment. Love each other just as I have loved you. This wasn't part of the questioning session with the Pharisee. He's now talking to his disciples. It's the very end for him. The 3 years of their ministry together are coming to a close. It's his last evening with them. And he says, love one another. You should love each other. Your love for one another will prove to the world that you're my disciples. I just want you to think about that for a moment. Your love for each other, it has to be visible. It has to be tangible. I would argue it has to be an action. Not that just they told each other they loved them, but that they lived it out. That's how you will be different. All right? It's a call to action. If we say we're going to love someone, it means we're going to act for their best. John states it again in chapter 15. That was 13, this is 15, 2 chapters later. This is my commandment from Jesus. Love each other in the same way I have loved you. There is no greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command. Now, I don't think they thought they were going to have to die to follow Jesus at that moment. He hasn't even died yet. He has not laid down his life for them yet. But he puts this out there in front of them. There is no greater love than if you are willing to sacrifice yourself. Love's an action. I told you the word love was spoken once. You heard it. That's the only time it comes up in the movie. The movie has a great ending. I'm not going to give it away. It has a great ending. And you would think at the very end that Roz and Bright Bill, they're together, and finally you're going to get those words. I love you, Roz. I love you, Bright Bill. It never happens. And yet it happens. I'm going to make you watch the movie to figure it out. But the words are never spoken. But it is absolutely clear as you watch. So, life lesson 2 was, for me, love is more than words. All right? The last one is love is willing to sacrifice. Love is willing to sacrifice. And at the very end of the movie, there's this, of course, all these kids' movies have these great action scenes, and there's a big fight at the end of this movie between Roz and the robots that are coming to take her home, and all the animals join Roz, and of course they're victorious. What a terrible movie it would be if, like, they totally lose, and all the animals died. Hey, welcome to DreamWorks. You know, that movie's not going to get it done, all right? But they win, and at the very end of it, Roz realizes what love's going to take. That got some of you connected emotionally. I know it did. Stop. Are you crying? Stop. So, the third lesson is sacrifice comes from love, right? Great movies tell one great story over and over and over. They don't even realize it. They tell God's story. I mean, that's why we say things like, you know, they have a Christ figure or a Messiah figure that sacrifices for the others. They all steal from God's great story. So let me give you some examples, right? I Am Legend. Dr. Neville at the very end dies trying to save humanity. Jack saves his love. Iron Man saves everyone by wearing all the stones. I was gonna say gems. I know it's not stones, right? William Wallace tries to bring freedom. Harry Stamper from Armageddon saves the world from an asteroid, and Obi-Wan gives up his life for Luke. Well, that's nice. That's a few movies. Or there's a whole bunch more. All right? And that's the abridged short list for you. Of all movies that have a Christ figure or a Messiah figure in them, that there's a person willing to give up their life for others. Roz sacrifices by leaving her new home, her friends, and Bright Bill. Because whatever is in her heart, that she can't say the word heart because she doesn't know what she has, but it's that she loves them. Sacrifice comes from love. And love always requires sacrifice. I'm just going to tell you that. Matthew writes this, "For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve others, and to give his life as a ransom for many." Jesus gave his life to purchase freedom for everyone. This is the message God gave to the world at just the right time. God's great story is a love story of his love for us, and it's a call for us to love back. And love requires sacrifice. Jesus died on the cross for our sins because we are loved. Love requires sacrifice in our lives. No, very few of us are going to have to give up our life in love. Very few of us. Maybe no one in this room will have to give your life out of love. But you are going to be giving your life because it's going to require sacrifice. It's going to require intentionality. That I intentionally pour into another person's life. It's going to require your time. You're going to have to sacrifice your time. Things you want to do, you're going to put aside for others. The things you want to do, you're going to put aside for God's purposes. It's going to require energy. It's going to require your resources. It is going to require your life. That's what love does. Love requires sacrifice. So that's the third lesson from this that I got. First one was we're all given a purpose. The second one, love is more action than words. And sacrifice comes from love. So, here's the life questions for me that I've been wrestling with as I was putting this together. Have I responded to Christ's sacrifice for me? Have you responded to Christ's sacrifice for you in God's great love story? The greatest love story. The reality is if we have not responded to Jesus' gift, it's actually the greatest tragedy. It is the greatest tragedy for us not responding to God's love because we will never complete and understand our purpose. We will never be the men and women we've called to be until we get that figured out. Until we respond to the sacrifice for us, for God's love for us. Here's the next question. Am I embracing my purpose? Loving God and loving others. How am I doing at that? So I'll let you think about that. How are you doing at that? How are you doing at expressing your love towards God? How are you doing at expressing your love towards others? Let me take it one step farther. Is it growing? Is it growing? Is your love for others, your capacity to love others, growing? Or are you becoming harder, more calloused, less forgiving, less merciful, less willing to think the best of others? That means my love is shrinking. Do my actions express love? If somebody watched our lives, watched how we behaved, watched what we did, would they go, I know Doug loves God and loves others. I see it in the way he acts. And am I willing to sacrifice for others? Those are really the keys from this movie that I take away. Am I willing to sacrifice for others? Because it's going to take me. It's going to make me commit. And you know what? I may be a little less, and I may be a little worn out, and I may not look as good as I once did. But it'll be worth it. It'll be worth it every time. Let's close in prayer. God, I thank you that we find your great story in so many places, over and over and over. There's something that connects to us, whether we recognize it or not. God, I pray that if there's anyone in this room that has not responded and asked Jesus to be the leader of his life, forgive their sins, that today might be that day. And God, for those of us who are followers, help us to live out our billboard. Help us to love you and love others well. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. All right, before you go, just a quick reminder, Saturday, Sunday, not Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and we'll be starting a new series next week, Why I Almost Didn't Follow Jesus. So, hope to see you back next week.